I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Gary Sanitary District meeting. Today is Monday, June 3rd, 2024. Will everybody please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we'll move into roll call.
Commissioner William Allen.
Present.
Commissioner Ola Morris. Commissioner Maurice Mabon.
Present.
Commissioner Darnell Lyles. Commissioner William Cook.
Present.
Attorney Jewel Harris Jr.
Present.
Interim Director of Administration Brenda Scott Henry.
Here.
Finance Manager Jerome Foster.
Present.
And that's the end of roll call.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Next, we'll be moving on to certification. Pursuant to Indiana law, section 5-14-1.5-6.1, I certify that prior to the start of today's meeting, there was an executive session, and nothing was discussed in that session that was not indicated on the posted notice. Everything being in compliance with Indiana statutes, there were no final votes held. Does any member dissent? Okay, hearing none, moving on. Attorney Harris, do we have any RFPs?
Ask if there's any additional.
Are there any additional proposals for the insurance brokers and consultants? Okay, hearing none. What is yours?
All right, and we'll find that that is closed. And there are a couple of proposals received. And again, just for the record, the proposals are for insurance brokers and consultants. The first proposal is received from Haywood Fleming and Associates, located in Gary, Indiana. Open these ones. These are both electronic things, right? Okay. Second proposal is from Myers Scleros, located at 8605 Broadway in Maryville. We'll go ahead and open that as well. And they submitted a hard copy proposal. Mr. Chair, I would recommend that these proposals be submitted to staff for review and further recommendation at our next board meeting.
Do we need a motion on that?
You don't.
Okay.
How many was it?
Two. Okay. Moving on to minutes. What is the pleasure of the minute?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to accept the executive session and regular meeting minutes of May 2024.
Is there a second?
I second it, Mr. Chair.
Motion's been made and properly second. Roll call?
Commissioner Cook.
Yes.
Commissioner Lyles.
Yes.
Commissioner Mabon.
Yes.
Commissioner Morris.
Yes.
Commissioner Allen.
Yes.
The vote is 5 ayes, 0 noes.
With 5 ayes and 0 noes, the minutes have been passed. Moving on to new business, we have 2.1. Mr. Foster?
Thank you. I make a motion to approve and ratify GSD payroll earnings for period ending April 22nd, 2024 through May 5th, 2024 in the amount of $277,011.82. In your package, you would note the reasoning for the increase is, and that's all I have.
After hearing the overview, are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, what is the pleasure of the board for 2.1?
Well, second, Mr. Chair.
Motion has been made and properly second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Cook.
Yes.
Commissioner Lyles.
Yes.
Commissioner Mabon.
Yes.
Commissioner Morris.
Yes.
Commissioner Allen.
Yes.
The vote is 5 ayes, 0 noes.
With 5 ayes and 0 noes, payroll has been approved, or 2.1. Moving on to 2.2.
We have a motion to approve the sole source purchase, and I'm not sure what this term is, but we'll give it a try. A flight submersible mixer from Xylem Water Solutions for an amount not to exceed $28,651. The information is included in your package, but if you would like an overview, or Washington is here to give you an overview.
I don't. I read that.
You read?
Do we have any comments or questions?
Yeah, I do have a question for COLA. Kind of researched this. First of all, I don't like sole sources. But at the same time, I noticed that this company, when it does business with other companies, it gives an actual price breakdown. And so yesterday I went over it and I saw the price breakdown. I don't know if that's tied into what's called Block 1. But the prices, I've seen this work being done for $18,576 by the same company in Cartersville, Georgia. But I'd like the price breakdown. I mean, we're going to approve this, but we do need a price breakdown for Block 1. There's no price breakdown in here?
Are we talking about the same project or another project?
Beg your pardon?
What project is that? It's not, is it this project or another project?
Salem, the sole source, yeah. It's the sole source purchase of the submersible mixer.
Okay. I do not really understand this Block 1 thing, because all I know is that it's a piece of equipment.
We've gotten a price of $28,651, but we don't have a breakdown of what we're paying for.
We are only paying for the equipment that we have. It's a new equipment that we are procuring.
So we're only paying for the submersible pump.
We are only paying for the submersible pump, correct?
Okay.
There are 2 pumps in the tank. We are fixing one and we are buying a new one. The cost of a new pump, the new mixer is $20,000 that you're having in front of you.
So sole source it means essentially we don't go out and solicit bids from other companies.
They are the only sole supplier of that equipment, yes.
Okay.
That we use at our pump stations and plant?
Yes, if it is an Xylem, yes.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, what is the pleasure of the board for 2.2?
Move for passage.
Well, second, Mr. Chair.
Motion's been made and properly second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Cook.
Yes.
Commissioner Lyles.
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon.
Yes.
Commissioner Morris.
Yes.
Commissioner Allen.
Yes.
The vote is 5 ayes, 0 noes.
With 5 ayes and 0 noes, 2.2 has passed. Moving on to claims, 3.1, Mr. Foster.
Thank you. Make a motion to approve and ratify GSD claim numbers 1481 through 1557 in the amount of $973,000.35.
After hearing the overview, are there any comments or questions for 3.1? Hearing none, what is the pleasure of the board?
So moved. Second, Mr. Chair.
Motion's been made and properly second for 3.1. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Cook.
Yes.
Commissioner Lyles.
Yes.
Commissioner Maybon.
Yes.
Commissioner Morris.
Yes.
Commissioner Allen.
Yes.
The vote is 5 ayes, 0 noes.
With 5 ayes and 0 noes, claims have been approved. Moving on to information updates, we have plant operations.
Yeah, I would love to inform the board that we are continuing to optimize the plant process, and then we are bringing equipment more equipment back online. One of those equipment is what we just approved for the mixer for the dewatering building. We're working on bringing the sludge pumps. Actually, I don't want to be going too much into technical details because I'm not sure if members of the board are really familiar with the equipment we work with in the plant. So the pleasure of the board, they will be interested in knowing some of the infrastructure that we have in the operational areas of the plant. I mean, that would be wonderful. But since I have to report the operations of the plant, so we're trying to bring, there are a lot of equipment that are not online because they are not operational. And so I'm working just to get all of them possibly online, including the areas that we were cited on by the by Adams and latest inspection of the plant. So areas of that I'm really looking at right now is the sludge pump, the digester pump. We're trying to improve on the sludge. Let me explain quickly. When the wastewater comes into the plant, it's water and solids. So we separate the solids from the water. We process the water and we polish the water, we disinfect it, and then we send it back into the river. The solids, we take it out of the water, we digest it. The digestion is that we remove all the volatile organic compound, and then we dewater the sludge, and then we haul the sludge out of the plant into a sanitary landfill. So separating the sludge contains a lot of water, like it's almost 5% solid, or sometimes it's 10% solid. So we dewater it. We'll take the water out to make it like 15 to 20% solid. That's the cake. When we say sludge cake, that's the cake we are producing. And then presently, sometimes we hardly can make 5% solids. So we're trying to improve it to like 20% solids or 20% cake, which means 20% solids, almost 80% water. That is the efficiency of what we can get from the equipment that we're working with right now in the plant. So, and we're also working on the chemical usage. I mean, we are using a lot of chemicals, and we're trying to, the mixer that we just approved now, what it does is when the sludge or the solids get into the tank, it mixes it into a consistency. Everything just to be one consistent sludge or solid that goes into the dewatering process to make it easier to take the water out and then produce the cake. So I'm looking into how we use the chemical, to do this process, so we don't use as much chemicals as we are using now. It's part of the optimization of the plant process. We're cleaning the tanks. I think we've done about 2 tanks so far last month. And then last week, specifically, Broadway office, building office was opened to the public. I just think that we need to inform the board. We're working on improving our safety issues in the plant. Since we came on board, we've been working, we've been doing fine because there have been no report of OSHA violations. But we want to improve on what we have and then make it better so that we are complying with OSHA rules and regulations.
So can I interject, Cola?
Yeah.
Just to say that June is National Safety Month, and we're rolling out a series of training for employees. We just had the chainsaw training, in which we had about 12 people to participate in that one. And so on the city side, on the environmental affairs, we have staff who can offer certification training for OSHA 10 certification, and no cost to the district. And so we will roll out that in June 13th. We'll roll out the OSHA certification. And we're starting with managers. Managers will then utilize their skill set to pass it on to employees or oversee employees. And our next round of certification will be for more of our employees. But of course, we have to stagnate that based upon the number of employees that we have on duty during a period of time. Just wanted to interject that. So, but Cola brought that to our attention.
Did you say chainsaw training?
LTAP, which is late, what is LTAP stand for?
Local Technical
Assistant Program. Yeah,
That Purdue University is,
yep.
yeah.
And so the city offered that. They extend the offer over to GSD, and we had about 12 people to participate in that training.
That's all I have. Happy. Any questions you guys have?
Do we have any questions or comments? Thank you. Moving on to construction activities.
Good morning, Board. Going to provide a quick update on the construction activities. Not too much has changed since the last meeting. The grid improvements project, the Army Corps of Engineers are still in litigations with the First Street contractors regarding the delays and everything else that went wrong with that project. Haven't heard any updates as of yet. The Force Main Phase 2 replacement project for 27th Chase Street Pump Station. The contractor is mobilizing this week, so there will be quite a bit of progress probably for the next board report on that project. The 27th Chase Street bar screen replacement project, as I said before, the west bar screen has been installed. The electrical contractor is nearing the completion of installing the control panels and the wiring of that west bar screen. The east bar screen was not to be installed until the west one is up and operational, but the manufacturer can't be on site until July 8th, I believe, for startup and testing of the bar screen. So we are allowing the contractor to proceed with the installation of the east bar screen just to keep this project on schedule. And for the Lake Street Drainage Improvements Project, German Construction is doing what they can with the hardscape. Still the pedestrian bridge for the Douglas Center is still being installed, and also the bridge over the lagoons is still under construction. So it's kind of limiting what German Construction can do to complete this project, but this is all in the schedule, and so far we're still on schedule for this project. That's all I have.
I have a question. As relates to the bridge going across to the Douglas Center. Have we, I've been, checking, looking at it and what have you. What is in the way of them moving that a little bit quicker than what's going on?
I don't think we have any control over that whatsoever. That's just a federal project. It's a national park area, so it seems like progress is slow with that.
It has been very, very slow.
Maybe American Structure Point can push them along a little faster. I wish I could.
Okay, thank you.
Eric, on the cave-in status, 808 East 35th Avenue, are we still waiting on the water company?
I have a call on the water company. I haven't heard back from them yet.
Okay. And also on 37th and Broadway, right there by the bank, across from the bank, the street's always flooding there by the bank. Is that our problem, or is that?
It's the restaurant that was there. It was
No, up by the bank.
on the east side of Broadway.
Yes.
I think Cola has some update on that. He and I went out to do an inspection, so
Okay.
I think the problem is on the west side of 37, not the east side. I didn't see any problem on the east side.
The east side, by the bank, on the avenue, you go by there right now, it's water. The street's been flooding for almost like a year now.
I was out there with Brenda, where we saw water was on the west side.
there's
No,
It's on the southwest.
You're speaking about the restaurant.
Yeah,
The water's being pumped and it's dislodging the sidewalk.
okay, I
It's
can,
been going on for about 5 years. I went downstairs with you at that facility. That's been going on for at least 5 or 6 years. The water's pumping through the alley and
oh, okay, I get it now, yeah, okay.
it's clear water, so it's storm water, right?
Yes, it's groundwater. Groundwater.
So that's,
a bigger problem. That's groundwater. That means the water table is high, and that water is infiltrating into their basement, and they're
Pumping it out?
Yeah, it's groundwater.
because that new sidewalk that was put down there, matter of fact, it's probably a 3-foot hole under there now. The sidewalk's going to cave in because the water's been going for about 5 years now.
Yeah, we are aware, but that's a groundwater issue. Like, that's not a sanitary issue, it's not a stormwater issue, it's a groundwater issue. The water table is high. Yeah.
I think that's it's a foundation problem, it's a foundation issue with the building. Maybe the foundation is cracked and letting water in the building.
So, but we are looking into seeing if there's something that we can do to connect those two facilities. So it's not only the restaurant, it's the church actually, and then it's also the abandoned, it was a former medical facility. So we're gonna assess it for what we can do in terms of.
Because the water's eventually going down the sewer anyway.
Yeah, so that's what we're gonna.
If it's going down the sewer, we might as well redirect it to the alley.
Well, we could direct it to a stormwater system that we have there. That's what we're gonna look into.
Okay.
We gotta consider the cost.
Okay.
Thank you. Any comments or questions additional for Mr. Tonk? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, board.
Moving on to discussion, are there any topics or items that need to be discussed?
Yeah, I just want to thank whoever was responsible for 504 being reopened. 504 is open now.
Yeah, we have a team, our management team all work together to get the facility open. It is now open for the public. We had our grand opening on May 28th. So 504 Broadway is open, I should put this on. 504 Broadway is open for citizens to make payments only. And if you have questions about your bill, you still will call the customer service number, which is 219-883-1027 to discuss your bill, but that facility is now open to the public, and there are customers coming in.
So you can use credit card and debit cards.
They can use credit card, debit card, cash,
No checks.
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 money orders.
Every
Yeah.
form of payment.
We will take your payment.
Not Bitcoin.
No Bitcoin.
That's next week.
Any other discussion?
We do have the newsletter that is going out soon, so we've completed that. So look for your, if you guys are checking your bills, please check your bills, because in the last billing cycle, we were able to put some messages there. And we're waiting on someone to just come up and say, thank you for putting that on the bill, because we want people to read it. It costs us, so we want people to read their bill, and as well as the newsletter will be in the billing, in the future billing cycle. And so I want to thank Rachel Morgan Caesar and her team for helping us to get that done. I think we shared it at the last, did we share that already, Rachel, with the board? The newsletter?
Yeah, you did.
We did? We shared a draft? Okay.
The newsletter? How many newsletters is that going to be going out? 22,000, I think?
That's about right.
About 22,000? All right. Thanks for the effort, because I tell you, we've been knocking on that door for 3 years, because we used to send a newsletter out all the time.
Yeah.
And so we finally got a newsletter going back out to the public. I mean, this board is, with that, hopefully, we're introducing who the mayor is this time around.
Yeah, we're introducing the mayor, the new administrative team. We highlighted customer service department. We gave updates about the long-term control plan, and so it's a lot of good information in there.
Great.
Any other discussions? Are there any requests to speak?
No, sir.
Do we have a motion for adjournment?
Make a motion, Mr. Chair, to join the meeting.
Is there a second? Second. Thank you. Meeting has been adjourned. Okay, hello again. This is the Gary Stormwater Management District meeting. Today is June 3rd, 2024. Can we please have a roll call?
Director William Allen.
Present.
Director Ola Morris. Director Maurice Mabon.
Present?
Director Darnell Lyles. Director William Cook.
Present.
Attorney Jewel Harris Jr.
Present.
Interim Director of Administration Brenda Scott Henry.
Here.
Finance Manager Jerome Foster.
Present.
And that's the end of roll call.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Moving on, there is no certification since no items that were discussed during the executive session pertain to stormwater. So moving on to minutes. What is the pleasure of the minutes?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to accept the regular meeting minutes of May 2024.
Is there a second? Second. Motion's been made and properly second for approval of minutes. Roll call, please.
Director Cook.
Yes.
Director Lyles.
Yes.
Director Mabon.
Yes.
Director Morris.
Yes.
Director Allen.
Yes.
The vote is 5 ayes, 0 noes.
With 5 ayes and 0 noes, the minutes have passed. Moving on to new business, 2.1, Mr. Foster.
Thank you. Make a motion to approve and ratify GSWMD payroll earnings for period ending April 22nd, 2024 through May 5th, 2024, in the amount of $5,259 even.
After hearing the overview, are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, what is the pleasure of the board for 2.1?
So move for passage, Mr. Chair.
Motion's been made and properly second. Roll call, please.
Director Cook.
Yes.
Director Lyles. Director Mabon.
Yes.
Director Morris. Director Allen.
Yes.
The vote is 5 ayes, 0 noes.
With 5 ayes and 0 noes, 2.1 has passed. Moving on to claims, we have 3.1, Mr. Foster.
Thank you again. Make a motion to approve and ratify GSWMD claim numbers 67 through 77 in the amount of $13,195.10.
After hearing the overview and recommendation, are there any comments or questions for 3.1? Hearing none, what is the pleasure of the board for 3.1?
Move for passage.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly second. Roll call, please.
Director Cook.
Yes.
Director Lyles.
Yes.
Director Mabon.
Yes.
Director Morris?
Yes.
Director Allen?
Yes.
The vote is 5 ayes, 0 noes.
With 5 ayes and 0 noes, claims have been approved. Moving on to information updates, we have MS4 updates.
Yes. So on Saturday, June 1st, we held our Household Hazardous Waste Collection Day. We had lots of volunteers that came out to support us in that effort. I want to thank our staff, both on the Gary Stormwater Management District, the GSD maintenance team, and the IPP department, as well as recycling department for helping us to pull this successful event off. As you will see around the city, we have lots of flyers and yard signs and billboards, and we have a great presence on social media about the event. And so we want to thank all of the city residents and those in Lake County, because the Household Hazardous Waste is a Lake County event. It's just not a City of Gary event. Just this event happened to be in Gary. But in addition to Household Hazardous Waste collection, we had e-recycling. We had booth opportunities, so we had vendors that were out there. We had the gas can exchange. Of course, we did the tire collection, and we had the rain barrel sale, where I don't have the final numbers, and we'll get that to you at the next meeting, the report out on the next meeting. But we were able to distribute rain barrels for those who had purchased them. We want to thank all of our partners for participating in that event with us. So I was there, we were there in the rain, of course. We do rain, shine, sleet, snow. We had that a couple of years ago, and we were out there in the rain, making sure that the residents were being served. And that's it on the Household Hazardous Waste. I also want to just do a pre-introduction to the stormwater ordinance. You know that we've been talking about this for about a year now, and we're here at a point where Metrics Environmental has assisted us with drafting the ordinance, and we'll have a presentation on your next agenda item. So there's a fact sheet that hopefully everyone was able to get a copy of it, that Aline will share with us today, go over for us today. All right, so can I segue into Aline?
Yeah, any comments or questions on the MS4 updates?
Just a comment. I did make the collection event on Saturday, and I was just really amazed at how well attended it was. There were quite a few folks who came up, drove up, and took advantage of what was being offered at that hazardous waste situation. So kudos.
Thank you.
If there aren't any more comments or questions, yeah, we'll move on to 4.2, Metrics Environmental.
Hello, my name is Aileen Driscoll. I was here, I think it was around January, so it's been a little while, introducing when we were starting the stormwater ordinance update process. And as a reminder, the reason we did this is because the state switched from the Rule 13 to an MS4 general permit that had some new requirements, one of which is to update the existing ordinance within a certain span of time. So we've been working with Brenda's team on that really hard over the last few months, and we've got a draft ordinance, which is summarized on the fact sheet, which I believe all of you have a copy of. These items on the fact sheet are the substantial changes. There may have been small tweaks that aren't included on here, nothing that changes the meaning of the ordinance or any requirements. So we tried to just keep it meaningful changes. So we came up with this draft by cross-referencing the existing ordinance with the MS4 general permit and the construction stormwater general permit. And then also LTAP came out with a model stormwater ordinance. And that actually was very similar to the existing Gary ordinance. It had the same kind of skeleton structure. So in that cross-referencing, we found some requirements in both of the general permits that weren't yet included in the existing ordinance. And there were also sections in the LTAP model that were more robust or more detailed than the existing ordinance. And so those areas where they didn't overlap were the changes that we implemented in this draft. So if you take a look at the fact sheet, the first section is just the notable minor language adjustments. So those are things like making sure there are no references to Rule 5, because that's now the construction stormwater general permit, and Rule 13 is now the MS4 general permit. So throughout the entire ordinance, all of those references are now updated to current language. We also changed the terms technical standards manual to city design standards manual, just to match the name of the document that is actually in place here at the city. Section numbers and references were updated because as we made changes to match the model ordinance, there were some new sections created, which, bumped numbers down. So all of those have been slightly tweaked as needed. And then the biggest, language adjustment sections were the statements about superseding ordinances, interpretations, disclaimer of liability, and severability, which is shown in sections 119-8 to 119.11. So I wanted to call that out because those sections were all present in the existing ordinance, but the model ordinance was a lot more detailed. So we essentially just went through that with Brenda and her team and Attorney Morgan and Judge Monroe and assessed, which version is a better match for the city, and went with the language that was in the model ordinance since it was more robust. Any questions on that section? Okay. Next section is new references, definitions, and exemptions. These are pretty straightforward. There are some places throughout the document where we included references to an operation and maintenance manual. That's something that the Stormwater Management District is required to create. And there is language in the ordinance that refers to that manual. So places basically where we're talking about post-construction measures now also have a reference to the operation and maintenance manual. And that's so that any applicants can look at the ordinance and see very straightforward that they also need to follow that manual. We updated the definition of sensitive areas to include a reference to contaminated sites, and we also defined contaminated sites, and that is to address the concern that, there may be sites that have very small acreage of ground disturbance, but they could have high levels of pollution. And so we wanted to make clear that even though maybe that plot of land doesn't seem like a sensitive area ecologically, it still is sensitive in terms of stormwater management, stormwater quality management.
And an example of that is petroleum sites that's been abandoned, gas stations, auto repair shops, and brownfields, dry cleaners, those type of facilities. They have contamination on the site. There's a program with the state that'll help you to remedy those things, but you cannot do construction on a contaminated site. Like, that's just not acceptable. So with those properties that are less than an acre and sits on a brownfield, you're required to do some level of cleanup, get a no further action letter before you can do development on that site.
Mm-hmm. And there is language in the ordinance that states basically if you submit an application for that kind of site, that the Stormwater Management District is allowed to ask for more information and more measures to help mitigate the risk of discharging those pollutants into stormwater runoff. Okay, and then in section 119-76, it's, that whole section was really kind of reworked. It's about the permit procedures. We just updated it to reflect how the Stormwater Management District currently processes their applications. There were also exemptions added in, like an exemption for leaf litter. You know, naturally introduced leaf litter is not regulated stormwater discharge. It was just added on to a long list of existing exemptions. And then there were some language clarifications for permitted coal mines, timber facilities, and agriculture. And then the last new reference is there's a paragraph in section 119-207 that really just acknowledges the relationship between erosion and water pollution. And that was something that was in the LTAP model ordinance that we thought was important to also include here, just to recognize that relationship and the importance of reducing erosion. Any questions? Okay.
Do we have any comments or questions?
So, and then, yeah, there are 2 more sections. I'm going as fast as I can. So this next section is about enforcement and fees. So there are some pretty substantial changes in here. If you take a look at section 119-37, which is page 16. So there were language adjustments to 119-37 and 119-38, and those reflected the model ordinance. And then you'll see on page 17, there is an enforcement schedule table. And so this basically just outlines what action will be taken depending on what offense number it is. So, for example, on a first offense, a property owner might receive a written warning or a site visit with an inspection penalty, or they might receive a stop work order, all kind of depending on the severity of the situation. And so this just outlines specifically what actions might be taken in those violation situations.
For the offenses, is that something that just the stormwater personnel are going out and documenting or enforcing? Or is that gonna be done like in conjunction with, building department?
Code enforcement.
Code enforcement?
So our inspectors are code enforcement officers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No problem. So in addition to that table, there is some language underneath, basically that after the 4th offense, the matter will be referred to a court with proper jurisdiction. Stormwater Management District will ask for appropriate penalties at a minimum of $250 and a maximum of $2,500 for first-time violators. That is new language as well. So that is the enforcement schedule, which would be implemented, people that are violating the ordinance. And then there are also new fees in here in section 11979, which is on page 23 and 24. And this is something new for this stormwater management district, but there are other cities that do this. It essentially allows them to charge a fee for excessive reviews or excessive re-inspections for violators. So, for example, if you have an applicant who has submitted an application and, one of Brenda's employees has had to review that application 3 times now, and they keep sending it back, and it keeps having new issues or the same issues, and they're not being addressed, this allows for a maximum of 2 resubmittals, so a total of 3 submittals. And then after that third, if on the 4th submittal, issues are still coming up, that's when the fee comes into play because of the amount of time that is being spent reviewing that application. And then it's similar for the extra SWIP inspection rate. If a site is in violation and an inspector has to continuously go out, each time that they have to go out and re-inspect and it hasn't been resolved, that can then lead to a fee. So ideally, that will help with compliance and also, with the time that is being spent on these items. Okay, so I'm going to skip a bullet point and go down to section 119.210 because that's in a very similar vein. And that is on, should have written page numbers, pretty far back. Page 42. So for C and D, under section 119.210, at the end of those paragraphs, there are statements that reinspection costs for post-construction BMPs. So that's a similar thing where if post-construction BMP is not being maintained properly, or in the case of paragraph D, isn't being inspected annually as it should be, then this Stormwater Management District can go out and inspect that BMP on behalf of the property owner, which will result in a $500 fee. Or if it's having compliance issues, each time they have to come out to re-inspect that post-construction BMP, it's $300 per hour.
So post-construction, meaning that those who have built these retention ponds or some other type of stormwater management system, like they're required every year to give us a status update on the condition of that system. So it should work just as any of our piping systems that are in the ground, sewer lines that are in the ground. So if that stormwater BMP is not being maintained, then we can go out and cite that individual for not making sure that his system works properly. Right now, if you look all over the city, you also find that there are a lot of retention ponds that are not being maintained. That means that they need to maintain those facilities. We can ask them and they do nothing. A prime example of one is at Ivy Tech, but it's not Ivy Tech anymore, but it's a parking lot across the street from Ivy Tech. So the retention pond is full of phragmites. So that means that the runoff from the street is just not just running into this weedy space. And what we needed to do is to function as it should, as it was built to function. So stormwater will be responsible. The Stormwater Management District will then will have oversight over those post-construction best management practices.
And I'll add to that, part of the application process, if your project requires a post-construction BMP, is that you need to state in the application how it's going to be operated and how it's going to be maintained, and there is an agreement that goes with that stating like it is going to be maintained in perpetuity. So it's clear cut how it should be maintained, and the expectations are laid out well before it gets to the point of, okay, you're not maintaining this the way that you should be.
And it goes with the property. So even though the owner may sell off the property to someone else, whoever acquires that property will be responsible for implementing those, maintaining that stormwater BMP.
The other new fee section that was added in is the ability to implement, the ability for the Stormwater Management District to implement infrastructure development fees. So an example of this would be, if there is a large development complex going in, or the multiple parcels are setting their stormwater into a large retention basin, then the Stormwater Management District could decide to implement an additional infrastructure fee on that. And so it is in there as an option to be used at the discretion of the Stormwater Management District. That's it for fees. Are there any questions before I move on? Okay.
Carry on.
This last section, these items really are pulled mostly from the construction stormwater permit and the MS4 general permit, just explicit requirements in those permits. So these are things like the first one being that any active construction projects, once this ordinance goes into place, they need to submit a new notice of intent. And so that's basically to bring them, bring their project under the new ordinance. So, and it's the same thing
That the
that
state
all the
requires.
communities had to do when the state
Yeah.
implemented their new permit.
So that means that when this ordinance becomes effective, any outstanding stormwater development site has to do their application to comply with the current ordinance. And this is the same, these are the same steps that the state took when we had outstanding projects that were going on, and they switched over to the new regulations. So this means that anyone that is already permitted, they will have to re-up their application to comply with new guidelines.
Exactly.
Yes.
And the next few items are a great example of why that is the case. So there are some new requirements that the state put into their permit that then have to be put into this ordinance. So concrete washout being properly maintained and the material in the washout being properly disposed of is a new explicit requirement. So that is now in the ordinance. Buffers. This is something in the construction stormwater general permit. Basically, if you have a site that has strip of riparian buffer along a waterway, it has to be maintained in some respect. If the existing buffer is more than 50 feet wide, you have to maintain at least 50 feet. If it's less than 50 feet wide, you have to maintain the whole thing.
Wow.
Yes. It's a big change, and it's something that the state implemented in the new construction stormwater general permit. So we cannot be more lenient than them, so it is in this ordinance. Another new requirement is the stabilization of idle construction areas has to be initiated on the 7th day. It used to be the 14th. Now they want you, if there's a spot on the construction site that isn't actively being worked on, it needs to be seeded and mulched starting on the 7th day that it lays idle.
So those that have
Temporarily
these,
stabilized.
mounds of soil that are stored on site, and you still have to stabilize those piles of soil if after 7 days, right? After 7 days.
Initiated at the end of the 7th day, I think the language is. So basically after 7 days. And you see this a lot in residential developments too. It's, a lot of times the yards sit at final grade and they haven't sodded it because of the time of year. Stabilization would need to be initiated.
Yeah.
7 days earlier than it used to be. Construction permits must be posted on site. That has been the case for a long time, but it wasn't explicitly in the ordinance, so we added that in. There are also new requirements for gasoline outlets and refueling areas that they need to have practices in place to control their stormwater runoff. So a lot of times that's the perimeter drains and things like that, that most fueling
Secondary
areas have
containers and
in
all
place.
those. Yeah.
Class 5 injection wells must be registered with the EPA. This is not currently applicable in Gary. You don't have any Class 5 injection wells. It's an infiltration practice. which leads to the next bullet point, which is that infiltration practices are prohibited in wellhead protection areas in most cases. I do not believe you have any wellhead protection areas. So again, not super applicable, but it's in there in case that changes.
Yeah.
And then lastly, for post-construction BMPs that are installed, away from the right-of-way, there is a requirement that there must be an easement at least 20 feet wide leading from the right-of-way to the BMP, and that's just to give access for the Stormwater Management District to perform inspections, or in the case that it's a failing measure and nobody's maintaining it, then there will be space for the Management District to get in there and maintain it on behalf of the property owner. That is, those are all the major changes that were made. Again, we base that off heavily on the model ordinance, and then the last section from the things that the state recently changed.
Thank you, Aline,
All right.
for your hard work and working with our team. We just have one more thing that's just kind of like our timeline. I know that, so after the board reviews this, we decided it would be important to do the overview today, but we will need a resolution to accept the ordinance, and then it will go toward the city processing. Attorney Monroe, if you want to add something to that process?
No, not really. I'm sorry, but I have a Zoom at the same time for the next couple of weeks until I retire from another job. So that's why I keep stepping out. How the process is going to go is going to be a resolution, so I'll get with Attorney Harris to get the resolution taken care of. Then we take it over to the council. The council is also going to have to, I heard about our additional fees, the council is also going to have to do something with the fee ordinance, because these are new fees, so we're going to have to amend the city fee ordinance and add that to it, I believe. Attorney Harris.
I think you're correct. Do you know if it's going to be one fee ordinance with all the fees that were outlined in the overview, or?
That's how we'll do it to make it simpler.
Okay. I had a meeting with Clerk Rags last week to give her a heads up that this was done.
Okay.
So they're anticipating, this going before the council soon too, so.
So we're complete at this point. If there's any additions, I'm not sure whether we're going to maybe Ms. Scott Henry or Aileen can add to that. Do we have to do anything additional? I don't think we have to do any additional for the public. So this will be a resolution on the next meeting, and then we'll proceed on so that we can get this taken care of soon.
Yeah, we have a timeline by the state to complete our ordinance, and I think it's July. We set a goal, but I think we're already behind time with the state, but we set a goal for July, August.
I believe so.
Yeah.
We're basically just giving them quarterly updates.
Yep. So we hope that by October, we're good. So the next quarter, we're in this quarter. I don't know if we'll get it done this quarter or not, but hopefully we do with the city council. So if we do, we can let IDEM know that we've completed this task.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have American Structure Point.
Good afternoon, Directors. John Tucker, American Structure Point. A couple quick updates on our stormwater projects. Lake Street, work is ongoing there. They're currently grading and placing stone between Cypress and Hemlock. They're also beginning, we do have some retaining wall on this project on the west side, just north of Birch. So that installation began today as well. They'll be moving forward with the grading work probably for the next couple of weeks with the goal of having asphalt by middle of the month, connecting up to Hemlock and start putting the hardscape. We do have other projects in and around our project, but we keep pushing our contractor to keep moving forward as quickly as possible. Also, we do have some limitations, but we're not trying to approach it as to get them moving forward, keep that going, and then we can coordinate any other limitations we have there. National parks, I mean, we still have some hardscape that'll have to be done once they're out of the way, but there's nothing currently that's impeding, it's just the restoration work there. And then, again, it's just once the projects are, allow them to keep moving north. So our other project, US 20 Complete Street, I did submit a notice to proceed to engineering Eric Tong. Last week, we wanted to get Gary Materials the notice to proceed so they want to start with some clearing and some pond work. We still have some right-of-way acquisitions and some utilities that we're working through. Hopefully, we can keep moving with the right-of-ways. That is critical to get utilities moving forward. But that'll allow them to start some of their due diligence and pre-construction work from some potholing and trying to stay ahead of other issues you may have with utilities. So hopefully if there's anything else that's needed on the notice, please let me know. I'd like to get them at least moving forward on their pre-construction work. Other than that, that's the two stormwater projects we have, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Do we have any comments or questions? All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have Robinson Engineering.
Good afternoon, Directors. Ron Smith with Robinson Engineering. Just a couple of updates. The bridge number 243, that's the bridge on Lake Street. The bridge deck and the curb and the sidewalk have been poured already. This week, they're going to install the guardrail. We anticipate the project being completed before July 4th. Our team is in contact with the Lake Street Reconstruction Project team of American Construction Point and then also Grimmer Construction to make sure we coordinate everything so we can make sure that we reach that completion. We want to make sure that we push the contractor to be out of there on the bridge job before the 4th of July holiday week. So second project is the Sixth Place Drainage Project. Hopefully I'll have a meeting scheduled this week with the engineering department and we can go over the two different drainage options and get a approval on that so we can finalize the project. That's all I have to report on this afternoon. I'll entertain any questions that the directors may have.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
As relates to the guardrail on the bridge going across up on Lake Street.
Yes.
They put in 12 by 12 pieces of wood as opposed to metal railings. Is there any particular reason why that was selected?
Let me check on that. Okay. All right. And I'll get back with you on that. Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Something was brought up about I guess at one point prior to the project starting, there was limited access to the water. If you were, I guess, approaching it from this, I don't know how to explain it, but now it kind of seems like it's more open for folks to walk around the bridge and then down lower, closer to the water.
Okay.
Is there some way that we can have like, and it's very steep. So if someone were to slip, fall, that would kind of be an issue. Is there some way that we can better protect or prevent folks from being encouraged to slide down and get into the water?
Okay. I will check on that today and address it, and I'll follow up with you on an email, okay?
Okay.
All right. Any other questions or comments or concerns?
Any other questions?
Thank you. And all the fathers have a happy Father's Day on June 16th.
Next brings us to discussion. Are there any topics to be discussed at this time? Hearing none. Are there any requests to speak?
No, sir.
Is there a motion for adjournment?
Second, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Meeting has been adjourned.